You wrote a 25 life group last year, and right now you're looking at a big, sticky renewal, 20, 30, 40%. Folks, some of that is due to the claims volatility, but a lot of it is due to the underwriting that you did to get the group on the books. Easy up front is not easy long term. If you sell Medicare or the individual market or the ACA-only, folks, this conversation is not going to be for you. But if you're doing level-funded brokerage work helping Main Street America, stay tuned. Today, we're going to talk about how the claims account percentage of the total cost, how the surplus mechanism works, and how the lasers inside of the plan can hurt, build, help, or kill your ability to retain the clients that you've fought so hard to get on your books. So the first thing we're going to want to look at whenever you have an underwritten case is you're going to want to look at the percentage of the dollars that are going to fixed expenses compared to the percentage of the dollars going into the claims account. If you are a broker who's still looking at bottom line cost only and ignoring everything else, this will be the number one action tool that you can take from this video. Look at your total cost and the percentage of those dollars that are in the claims account. Realize those dollars live with the employer. Now, it depends on how the plan is structured. We're going to get that a little bit later. But the first hurdle you want to clear is how much money of this is the client's. How much money of this is the carrier, TPA, admin taking as their fee for the life of this plan. Some plans I've seen have 5, 10, 12% of the money going into the claims account and the other 90% going into fixed cost. Bob, Johnny, Sally, Sue, listen to me here. That is a structure for really bad renewals. There is no money inside of that account to actually pay for the claims that are going to be coming in. You want to look for plans that have a larger percentage of the claims money as a percentage of the total. So to say that in a slightly different way, if you have a $100,000 plan cost and one has $9,000 going into the claims fund and one has 60, realize the potential for a good year there with the one going for 60 is much, much higher. Now, why does that matter to you as the broker? Well, that money is surplusable to the client. That gives you ballasting year over year over year. As soon as you start using stop loss dollars or use up all of the claims dollars and then ask for reimbursements by the stop loss carriers, they're going to get sticky on their renewals. So the first thing that you should do if you're not doing this as a level funded broker is look at the split out. How much of this money is the client's and how much of this money is going to the expenses of running the plan? That is the first biggest thing that professional brokers will see whenever they're not just trying to write the case for the year, but they're trying to write the case for the long term. The second piece that what you're going to want to look into ties directly into this claims fund, and that is the surplus structure. A lot of players will play games with this money. So let's use that example that we used earlier where there was $9,000 in the claims account and the other one had 60. Well, the one that's going with the $9,000 also generally has a very aggressive surplus forfeiture mechanism. So what they'll do is they'll say, great, if your plan runs well, we'll also take half of that money. So the potential surplus on that group for that example, and this is an egregious one, would be $4,500. Now, for a small business owner, yeah, that makes them very, very happy, but that's a whole heck of a lot less than $60,000. One, gets you a beer at the local pub. The other makes you their broker for life. And in the insurance business, as everybody on this conversation knows, residuals and retention are how you become successful in this business. It's very difficult to get new clients. So you want to serve the ones that you currently have as deeply and as thoroughly as possible. Because a retained client is so much better than a new one that you have to go hand fight on Main Street to get them to come over to your book of business. So the second thing that you're going to want to look at is how the surplus is organized. And there's some deep weeds here that we've gotten into in other videos, but in general, make sure that that surplus is owned by the business owner, owned by the plan. If that money is being forfeited, half of it to the carrier, realize that it's not a $60,000 or a $9,000. It's a $30,000 coinsurance or it's a $4,500 coinsurance. And that will put you in the right frame of reference to actually see where those dollars are going. The other piece you want to look at is who owns those dollars. If a carrier is saying, great, we will give you $30,000 back or $4,500 back, but you have to renew with us, realize they may be doing something very, very aggressive. And that is tying into human psychology, which is it is harder for a person to lose money than it is to gain money. Now, if you've read on this, it's roughly 6 or 7 to 1 in terms of the emotional intensity. If someone loses $1,000, they're 7 times as angry as if they gain $1,000. This is what some aggressive carriers are doing with the surplus dollars. If you leave us, you lose that $4,500. Well, okay, but that's very manipulative of your client, and they will feel that. And because you are the representation of that plan to that client, they will feel that from you. You'll have to have a deeper level of trust for them to actually not see you as the one who's taking half of their money when they've run well. Who owns the win? That's the biggest second piece. So first is the size of the account. Second is the structure of the account. Do you retain 100% of it for your clients? Do you retain 50%? Or more egregiously, do you retain 50% only if they renew? That's another Machiavellian effect that they can put on that piece. The last thing that we want to consider here is not just on this section, is not just the surplus percentage, not just hey, if you renew, you get it. There's also another piece here, which is that money tethered to that player? Some players will go a step even further than this. And what they'll say is that money can only be used with us. So effectively, what they've said is, not only am I going to take half of your clients' win, I'm also going to make it so if they leave me, they don't get it. And even if they do stay with me, they have to spend it with me. That is not a surplus, that's a future store credit, only if you continue to do business with them, which I believe in incentives deeply. What does that incentivize them to do? Well, if you have a big pool of money there, and if you leave, they get paid, it incentivizes them to give you a bad renewal. Why would they care? They win either way. This is Wall Street or the big carriers setting up a type of contract which is extremely one-sided. And you as the broker will have to represent that in front of your clients, which will affect your retention, which will affect your ability to provide for you and your family and protect your town, your Main Street. These are the little things that don't seem like much, especially if you're only running off a spreadsheet, but will massively affect the way in which you are able to renew your business and ballast them for the future. Now it's going to get a bit uncomfortable. I know I've been very blunt up until this point, but folks, this is where you actually see where the sausage is made or how the sausage is made. In the moment when you're underwriting a case, you are making decisions that will affect you long term. If you are going with a less thorough underwriting model, realize there's no free lunch. So what's going to happen is you're going to have more likely to be engaged with a carrier who's now playing these types of games around the surplus effect or the surplus mechanics. They will be saying, well, we don't have as much credibility in terms of our underwriting, so we're going to have to take 50% of that. And we're going to penalize the broker long term because they're being short-sighted with their client right now. Effectively, the better information you have, the better you are protected long term. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But if you do not do the hard underwriting up front, then you are exposing your group to more volatility by its nature. And in doing that, because insurance companies are not in the business of losing money, they're going to put mechanisms on top of this to make sure that they are made whole throughout the plan year. This is your job as the broker, advisor, consultant to go in and coach them to take them through these processes. There's an old line that says a pound or an ounce of sweat is worth a pound of blood. It's an old line, but it still rings true. If you do the work up front, you will be much more protected and better off in the long term. The hard work in level funding is getting the individual health questionnaires. The hard work in level funding is working with a carrier or TPA that crosses the T's and dots the I's. Not because it's easier. Frankly, it's harder up front. But because if you do the work up front, you're more likely to have a great life down the road. Again, there's no free lunch. This is just the nature of life. Mature people understand this. I know this is offending a lot of people right now. They're saying, I don't have time for that, Tom. Well, I would contend that the reason why you don't have time to do the deep work is that you're on a hamster wheel. So if you've ever felt yourself saying, I just need to do this and this and this and this and this because I keep losing clients, the better question would be, how do I do work now so I keep my clients later? And the only answer to that is go harder up front. Invest in them because you want them for the long term. This makes it their plan. This enables you to get better contracts. This enables you to get better surpluses. This enables you to have a better picture of how to even do care direction inside of the plan mechanics so that the units of consumption are priced more cheaply. And before we move forward, folks, we have these conversations weekly. I am happy to do it. I would really appreciate if you would like or subscribe here. As we grow the channel, we've got a couple thousand brokers that we talk to, but we want to get the majority of Main Street brokers on our team to try to clean up our industry. So I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. The few things that you really want to take away, the number one thing you want to take away is look at the percentage of the total cost that's going to the claims account. The more money that goes to that claims account, the better off your client will be long term. That's the first thing you want to do. Look at that amount of dollars. Number two, look at the surplus mechanics. Usually a broker works with 2 or 3 or 4 TPAs or carriers consistently. If you know one is taking 50% as a forfeit and turning it into a co-insurance program for that group, realize that up front. And don't say, all right, we have a potential surplus on this group of $50,000 when they're taking half. So it's really a $25,000 potential surplus. Additionally, make sure that you keep those dollars for your client free. You do not want to give the insurance company a reason, a perverse incentive for them to give you a big renewal and not negotiate. Because if they are only giving you store credit, realize they now have an economic reason to give you a big renewal, because either way they win. Either a bigger premium because they're taking an additional rate hike, or they're just taking your previous year's surpluses and putting it in their pocket. This is your job to protect your clients at that point. And then number 3, do the deep work of underwriting. I know I beat this drum, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but frankly, the brokers who I've worked with for decades are the ones that go out and do the hard work up front, and their retention is markedly increased. If you are tired of your brokerage house having to turn over 50, 60%, 35% of their groups every year, I would contend that a lot of that has to do with your depth of underwriting. So go deep up front and crank up your retention rate, because the more you know, the more you grow. I'm Tom Stein. We're here in Kansas City, American Trust Administrators. Keep fighting for Main Street. And if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.